up, y'all? I'm glad you're here. I'm gonna spell this out so it's super clear. Happy rappy, here we go. Drop the dope beat and let the happiness flow. On a bus, big and blue, full of happiness and the happy crew. We've got Holly, Mimi, Ryan and Glenn, Angela, Alana, Amy now and then, Joey, Danny, Steve's the driver, then there's Jen and Tony, he's the rider. I'm Laura, your MC. Together we bring happiness wherever we be. We're out to inspire and be inspired. We always smile, even when we're tired. Okay, most of the time, let's turn the frown upside down, back to the rhyme. From Vegas, all the way, across the entire USA. Spreading books and smiles as we go, cause we're in the business of happiness, yo. Left Vegas, full to bound. The wheels on the bus went round and round. Had a fun field day in the park. There was music, hula hoops, earthworms, and art. Brinkman and crew played a set. It was one of those things you'll never forget. A time in Boulder had come to an end. Omaha was coming up around the bend. From day one, so much to do. AAM Children's Hospital and Omaha Steaks too. Thanks to Jeff, he was a real wower. The mayor even came to a happy hour. Then Ava and Karen came along with us. Adding extra happiness on the bus. We stopped at a windmill along the way. Then it was off to Iowa City. Chicago, time just flew. Hung with the Immerman Angels crew. Ran a max of happiness at Wabash Bash. We bust out a happy signs and hula hoop stash. At another music fest, we met Yuri Lane. His harmonica beatbox was insane. 37 signals rocked off our socks. From the felt on the wall to the awesome talks. The Groupon peeps danced for us. Then for the happy crew, it was back on the bus. New York City was a real long way, so we drove through the night and arrived the next day. In New York, straight to Times Square, we delivered a huge load of happiness there. 50 petty cabs brought signs and books. We spread happiness and happy looks. Providence was cool, we cleaned out the bus. Then we went to see some kids and took popsicles with us. The kids were great, the smiles too, but our time here was officially through. This time headed home for a bit, but don't worry, our happiness won't quit. We'll meet up in Boston on the 26th, so you'll be back to getting your happiness fix. So that's pretty much what we've done till now. Keep on smiling, living in the wow. Put your happy face on every single day and spread happiness in every way. Hey,
we're all so happy.
Oh, hey,
Happiness
let's all go to the party, hula hoop and drink Bacardi with Laura Lombardi. I'm out. See ya later.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to your Wednesday afternoon therapy. Hope you enjoyed that video. That was my shout out to Tony Shea, who passed away tragically over the weekend. And if you're not familiar with Tony Shea, incredible entrepreneur. I took a lot from him when I ran my last tech business. He did a lot for the entrepreneurial community. He was the CEO of Zappos. Just recently retired too. And so it's sad news that we start the show this week, and I really don't like to start on a downer, but I want to celebrate, the good things and the legacy that he left behind for us as entrepreneurs. So that was my tribute to him. That was the beginning clip of a LinkedIn talk he did about 10 years ago. I can't believe it's 10 years ago. So it hit me pretty hard thinking about it because, he was 46 years old. I'm 46 years old. So it really hit me. The shortness of life and the benefits of taking advantage of everything that you have and appreciating everything that you have. So again, welcome to the show. This is the Do What Is Necessary live stream. I'm happy to have lots of guests logging in from all over the globe. This afternoon, it is 3 p.m. here on the East Coast in a cold Midwest, right here coming to you live from the Columbus studios of Orange Nomad. So welcome, Gloria, from San Francisco. Hopefully it's a little warmer out there than it is here in the Midwest. So again, thank you. This is your Wednesday afternoon therapy session, as I mentioned. I'm happy to have you. So let me know that you can hear me okay. Let me know that the video is coming across okay. Always like to get that tech stuff out of the way, just to make sure before we get going with our content. So thank you to our repeat guests this week, those of you who come back week in and week after, and those of you who might be watching this on a replay. I want to thank you too for all the love, the support, and all the great things that we've been able to do in this really crazy year of 2020. So I'm happy to have you on the show every week. So thank you. I just wanted to give you a shout out to those of you who come back week after week, those of you who put comments on LinkedIn, those of you who give us support, and more importantly, those of you who share this message of doing what is necessary. So let me know, like I said in the comments, that you can hear me okay. Those of you who are watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, let me know that you can hear me all right. We'll monitor the chat. But while we're doing that, while we're getting the tech stuff out of the way, I just want to thank our sponsor this week is Restream. So if you're wondering how we do this broadcast, how we get it out to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, it is Restream. That is the software that we use to broadcast out to multiple channels. So we'll have a link in the show notes as well, so check them out. If you're thinking about getting into live streaming, definitely want to check out Restream. So we want to thank them for being a sponsor and for really helping us week in and week out as we get better on this show. So, all right, let's get into it. If you don't know, if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Andrew Moon. I am the Orange Nomad. I founded Orange Nomad back in, it's 2014. When we started this broadcast, this is the Do What Is Necessary live stream. We started this on April 1st this year, and I'm happy to say we're coming up on 30 weeks. 30 weeks of doing this and all the things that we've learned. So my job, my goal, my mission with this live stream every week is to take hustling entrepreneurs, taking people that are frustrated in business, and turn them into calm visionaries, calm, unstoppable CEOs. That's what this show is all about. The Do What Is Necessary live stream, let me just get that out of the way first. This is about throwing away all the toxic norms that plague industry, that plague business. That hustle 70, 80 hours, 90 hours a week at the sacrifice of everything, the sacrifice of your health, your happiness, and your family. This is about only doing what is necessary for you. What's necessary for you is different from me, is different from the next person. This is about celebrating how to build an unstoppable life for you and doing what is necessary for you. So we'll get that shout out of the way. So again, thank you. If you're just joining us, let me know that you can hear me okay. And we'll get into our topic this week. And if you've attended the show, if you watched the show before, we bust it down into segments and we kind of tackle a topic. I like to cover topics that no one else wants to talk about. I like to cover topics that certainly it challenges the normal thinking. And I think this year, more than anything else, has challenged the normal way of doing business. And, put that in the comments too, that if I can't imagine anybody would disagree with me there. But I wanted to, also kind of give a shout out to people like Tony Hsieh. And if you read the book, Delivering Happiness, so that was what that whole intro video was about. And that's what I really liked when I read this book 10 years ago, was the difference that it made. And because it challenged everything that I was accustomed to learning about how to run a business. And back at that time, I was running a tech business, and it really made me think about what we were doing in our tech business. And one of the things that he prided himself on when he was running and growing Zappos, and if you remember in 2010, that was right after the 2008 recession, which I had just gone through with my tech business. So I was looking for creative ways of taking an otherwise boring, stale business and turning it into something that was fun, that was exciting, that was different. And that's one of the great things that I drew from Tony's book, Delivering Happiness, was the way he ran his call center. And I've worked in call centers. If you've worked in a call center, put that in the comments too. Give me a thumbs up. But let me know, again, it looks like we've got quite a few just joining us. Let me know that you can hear me okay, and that we're broadcasting everything, the video and audio, all that good fun stuff is showing up. But that's what it did. And it really it challenged the way that we were delivering our service. Our service was providing technical support to small businesses. And let's face it, there's nothing elaborate, there's nothing sexy about running a call center, a help desk. But when I went back and looked at that, when I went back and examined how he was doing that and how he was turning raving fans out of his employees, it really made me think about how we were doing things. And that was one of the things I got from a couple of the interviews that Tony did, was that he viewed his help desk, his call center, as his greatest marketing asset, as his greatest brand building asset. And it's that change in mindset for me when I was running a tech business, that can be the same way for us, that we can turn that customer support that we're delivering day in and day out into something that is an amazing experience. And truly, as his book said, delivering happiness every day. So that totally changed the culture of my last company that I ran, and that we started doing things differently. And the other thing that he did with his employees, he empowered his employees to make decisions. And I think he gave them, up to whatever it took to make that customer happy. So we started doing that. I started implementing that in my IT business. I started empowering my technicians who were taking those support calls every day to do what is necessary. Do what is necessary to create a happy customer. And, I gave them, credit card with I think we put like a $500 balance on them, and we allowed them to spend up to $500 to make it right with a customer. Because let's face it, tech business, we mess up. We don't always get things right. And I think it's the same in any business. We don't always get things right. But when we own up to that and we empower our employees to make it right, that is when it makes a difference for our customers. And those of us that are running business can definitely agree to that. So, Mark, welcome from Houston. Glad to have you on the show today. I'm super excited that, it looks like we've got quite a few more joining us today. So that's awesome. We're just about ready to get into the meat of our topic. And again, like I said, that's one of the things I appreciated about Tony is, he challenged the industry norms. He challenged the way of running a business. And that's what I love about people like him that challenge the way things have always been done. And if you've seen any of my past episodes, you'll know that I'm all about that. I've been a rebel since, tiny kid. I was a handful to my parents for a long time, because whatever somebody told me to do, I would do the opposite. I was stubborn. I was independent by nature. And we as entrepreneurs, that's the thing that makes us different. That's really what the craft or the quilt that we're cut from, that we don't always follow what everybody else says. But I think, we kind of are getting stuck into a rut and a routine now that we're like 9 months into this COVID thing, where industry norms are starting to come kind of creep back in. And I think it's time for us to, as we near the end of the year, and yes, this thing is not over. So let me preface that this segment right here is not ignoring what is going on in the world. And that is not what this segment is about. However, it is, making a choice to selectively ignore negative things, selectively ignore things that could bring us down, selectively ignoring the people who say things can't be done. And that's what this is about. I'm not going to minimize the pain, the frustration, the financial loss, the death that we've seen across the globe. I don't want to minimize that in any way. What this segment is to do is to challenge how we go forward, how we manage our life every day, how we manage our business every day, and challenging everything that everybody else says that our life should look like, what our business should look like, what we should look like as entrepreneurs. I think now is more important than ever, and that's why this theme of the show. Now is more important than ever to ignore the real world. And I think that, the real world says that you have to look like this. The real world says that that won't work in the real world. I remember the first time I heard that as a kid. I don't remember if it was my mom or dad, said that. I wanted to do something, and they're like, yeah, I wanted to do something when I grew up. And that won't work in the real world. So that's what I'm here to challenge. I'm here to challenge that mentality that it won't work in the real world. And what is the real world now? We're in a new reality. So welcome, Bruce, all the way from Scotland, from the UK. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciative of having a global audience, as you can see. And I think this industry mindset, the real world mindset is prevalent all over the globe, not just here in the States. That real world says that if you have a business, that you need to grow, you need to scale, you need to get bigger, you need to have more employees, that you need to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, that you need to sacrifice everything and work your face off because of that almighty dollar bill, because of a dream. And I'm not saying that hard work isn't necessary when you're running a business. I'm not saying that hard work isn't required to have some form of success. But let's stop, letting other people dictate what is success to us. And I think this year, is again, just we've seen things. I've been through a lot running businesses and in my family. I've been through the dot-com bubble. I've been through 9/11. I've been through the recession of 01, the recession of 08. I've started and exited multiple businesses and the challenges that go along with that. But every time I do it, and again, that was one of the challenges that I got when I started this company, that I couldn't be a 100% remote virtual company. Guess what? This year has proven that we all can. And this year has proven that right now, survival and thriving into next year is more important than ever. And it starts with what we believe and who we're actually listening to right now. And right now it's, people are saying, hey, I've got people come to me all the time. I've helped several people start businesses this year. And that's the negative feedback that they get from other people, is that you can't start a business in the middle of a global pandemic. You can't start a business during a recession. That won't work in the real world. And I think back in 2008, I think it was an interesting time that there's companies like Zappos who started around that time that survived, thrived, and eventually sold to Amazon for like $1.2 billion that were started during a recession. Slack was started during the 08 recession. Salesforce is snapping them up for billions of dollars. So when people tell us that we can't do something, I think right now is the time where a lot more people are chiming in and saying you can't do this, that won't work in the real world. So right now is the time to define, I think, and again, this is just my personal take on now's the time to define what we want our real world to be. And what our real world is much different than it was at the beginning of the year. I'll say that for sure, speaking personally. And I think a lot of in my coaching, I talk to people. We are changed as a people. We are changed as societies. We are changed globally because of what's happened this year. But I think it's just, again, feeding on that mentality of negativity and pessimism, that I'm not saying that I don't have days where I challenge myself and I doubt whether or not something will work. But I get up every day and make the decision to do what's necessary and try. Because it won't work in the real world, it's just an excuse. It is typically, I found, an excuse for somebody who doesn't have the guts to try. So if you agree with that, if you've had something where somebody has told you that it won't work, put that in the comments. Share that in their story. Those of you who are watching live, if you're watching this in the replay, put that in the comments where you're tuning in from and what your biggest challenge is with people telling you that something won't work in the real world. So, Bruce, thank you so much for that feedback. Hard work can only be achieved if you balance it. If you let the battery loose, too much charge, it may never recharge. We're just like our cell phones. And I think that's important. That's key. And I think that's kind of what I've seen so long right now. I have a lot of friends, a lot of you who are watching this show are tech companies. And right now is an extremely vulnerable time, I think, for the tech industry. Because for the most part, the tech industry, besides those who are on the front lines saving lives physically, the tech industry globally has propped up economies, has kept people in business. And I think we're starting to see some cracks in the industry right now because of burnout, because of excessive work, because of excessive goals, excessive pressure that we put on ourselves, besides everything else that we're having to deal with. But I think, that's what I want this episode to be, is challenging what everybody else is telling you and to do what's necessary for you. And I can't tell you what that is. Only you can say what is necessarily, what is absolutely necessary for you. So I want to go ahead and highlight another person that is doing things a little bit differently. This article was published in 2015. The CEO of Gravity Payments decided he was going to pay all of his employees $70,000 a year. Every single one of his employees, from the receptionist all the way up to his top people. And this article was published in 2015 by Entrepreneur Magazine, and this was published a few months after he made that decision. And there were a lot of doubters, there were a lot of haters, there was a lot of people that said that couldn't be done in the real world. And there's many people that told him that will not work in the real world. But here we are, 2020, during the worst things that most of us have ever experienced. And this was an article that was published yesterday. Actually, this might have even been today. Same article, same person. He's still in business 5 years later. And during when everything started with lockdown, with COVID, all of that this year, he had to make a decision whether or not he was going to lay people off inside of his company. But he went to his team and asked them to come up with ideas for being able to not lay anybody off. And to his surprise and his amazement, people were willing to take pay cuts. People were willing to do things differently, to challenge the norm. And this was posted on his LinkedIn this morning, that he's not had to lay off a single person, and all of the pay cuts that people took earlier in this year, that he has now paid all of those people back inside of his company, everything that they've lost and were willing to to give up. He's given all of that back, and they are now thriving. So I think that's a testament. I think it's a testament to challenging what everybody says. Here he is 5 years later, and he has a company culture that cannot be rocked. And I think that, Dan, shout out to you. I'm going to try to get Dan on the show. We'll see what we can do. So if there's anybody watching this show that can get me an inside track to interviewing Dan, I would love to be able to do that. Tony Hsieh was actually on my list, on my bucket list for people to be able to interview on this show, just because of what he did and what he meant to the entrepreneurial community. So I'm sad that I won't be able to interview him. Hopefully I might be able to interview Dan, because I want to talk to him about that, because that was something that I've talked about in the tech industry, that what if you did that inside your company? That as a managed service provider, as an IT service provider, as a security provider, what if you did that? What if you paid everyone $70,000 a year to start? And I've had a lot of people tell me that won't work. That's something common that I hear when I do coaching. That won't work for me. That won't work for my company. That won't work in where I live. That won't work in the city that I live in. But again, it's that real world thinking that has us plagued, that stops us from ever trying. So kudos to you, Dan, for not listening to the naysayers and having a thriving company 5 years later. So huge shout out to you. So if there are things inside of your company, inside of your industry that you think need to be challenged, put those in the comments or reach out to me and let me know what those things are. And let's get creative as an entrepreneurial, industry, as entrepreneurs, as a community, to think differently, because I think that next year is going to require us to think even differently than we did this year. Things that we've tried to figure out this year that might be working, we're going to have to continue to evolve. We're going to have to continue to get creative. We're going to have to continue to be scrappy. And I think we do that together. And so if you're struggling, if you're alone, if you've, at your wit's end listening to the negativity and being plagued by the negativity and need help, please reach out. Please message me on whatever platform. I'm easily available. And if anything, you can find me here on Wednesdays. But please reach out. So I want to cover the next segment is a happy ending to a story that we started last week. And if you watched last week's show, there was a college student here at Ohio University, here in the state of Ohio, that worked for Sherman Williams. And he started his own TikTok channel. And he started doing paint mixing videos that were accumulating millions of views. The long story short is Sherman Williams fired him. And, last week's, segment was about having the short-sighted thinking that all these companies pay millions of dollars to go viral. And you have somebody that's doing that inside of your company, and then you fire him. So there's a happy ending, however, to that story. It was interesting. This was posted again this week. Tony had all of the major paint companies reached out to him after this went viral. So he went viral a second time when he got fired. Every single paint manufacturer here in the States was after him to hire him. And that was smart thinking. He's now taken a job with Florida Paints. So I would move to Florida too if he's moving from Ohio to Florida. So kudos to you. So again, it's that different mentality. It's challenging what everybody else said. The marketing people at Sherwin-Williams said that they didn't want that. That wasn't enough to let him go. And you had somebody that was drawing people into the stores. People were messaging online about the things he was doing and about the creativity. And I just can't imagine that you have that type of traffic and traction and audience engagement, and you fire the person that's bringing that to your door. So again, shame on you, Sherwin-Williams, but kudos to you, Tony, for finding another gig and moving to someplace where it's much, much warmer than here in Ohio. So, but again, it's I think that right now that like I said, it's more important than ever that we challenge everything that we're doing, and as we plan 2021. I think that's another misnomer that we have in the business industry, that we need to have all of these projections and plans and everything laid out. And I think this year has taught us more than any other year that the best laid plans can be burnt to a crisp in a matter of minutes, in a matter of days. So for me, my plan is we're going to be working in 6-week sprints next year. That we had a plan the beginning of this year what we were going to do. That all got tossed out the window this year. But we've had to regroup. We've had to pivot. We've had to do things differently. This show came about because of doing things differently. And I'm thankful to all of those of you who are tuning in. So, but I do have one of my most favorite segments is this segment here. This is our Orange Spotlight, where I like to shine a light on somebody or a company or somebody that's doing things in a different way that challenges the norm. But again, this is one that I think is especially creative because it kind of ingrains a technical aspect into this story. So let me play the video and we'll talk about a little bit about that before we wrap up the show for this week.
The scale of what we're going to do is one which is going to regreen our Earth. we'll be able to see the ecosystems that we've restored from space. We need to use technology to scale up our restoration efforts. And the scale we're talking about is tens of billions of trees every year. It's a new step change in the way that we're thinking about global restoration. As an engineer, we can use all our innovation and all our ideas to leave this world in a better place than how we found it. The challenge that we're tackling is a complex one, and working with a team of passionate engineers, plant scientists, drone operators, we came up with this idea to use automation and digital intelligence to plant billions of trees.
I won't play the rest of the video. The video is a couple minutes long. I'll put that in the show notes. But I thought it was an interesting way of using technology to tackle a real-world problem. And I always, we're enamored because, Amazon's going to be able to use drones to drop stuff at our front door. But using technology for something that is going to be a little bit more useful to the planet, useful to us, I wanted to give a shout out to them, and I'll have a link in the notes as well. But it was just an awesome use of technology to be able to plant trees and using drones to do something on a scale that having the man resources to be able to do that would be next to impossible. But again, kudos to them for coming up with that solution. I love spotlighting creative people who are doing amazing things. That to me, I'm not an engineer by heart, but I thought that was a very, very creative way of using technology and AI to be able to solve a real world problem. So if there's somebody that that you want me to spotlight a future show in this segment, please let me know. Reach out to me. I'm always on the hunt, on the lookout for people who are doing things differently, people who are doing things creatively. But it could be just somebody who's doing something inside of your industry that you want to spotlight, that you think deserves to have a spotlight. That's what this segment is for, is highlighting the good of what other people are doing. So, okay, that will bring us to our last segment of the show with just Q&A. So if you have a question, you're still watching the show. Looks like we've got quite a few people still on. So thank you for again, hanging out with me. I know we went a little bit longer than normal. I try to hold this to 30 minutes, but sometimes I get amped up about topics. This was one of them. For me, is ignoring the naysayers, ignoring what other people say. So this question came up to me this past week, and as people are planning their marketing, their sales, their growth, or they're starting a new company, that's what we're all concerned about, is how do we get new customers? How do we continue to grow our business? How do we continue to do things differently? This question came up this week. What do you think will be the best marketing strategy to use in 2021? I think the best marketing strategy, again, what I'm seeing people like Neil Patel, which are way smarter than me when it comes to marketing, and we have found firsthand the value of live streaming, what we're doing right now. I think that this will be the game changer for brands, for companies, for personal brands inside of companies to be able to differentiate themselves going forwards. Everybody can just do a webinar, get on Zoom and put up a webinar. But not a lot of people have the wherewithal to get on live. And I'm going to be helping a group of entrepreneurs tackle this challenge going into 2021. This show right here has taught me a lot of things about people. It's taught me a lot of things about engagement. It's taught me a lot of things about not just the technical aspect of producing a weekly show, but the stories that people tell, the stories that people share with me are, stories that you will never get in a typical sales process or a typical marketing process. And that is the power of this show. There is, as you can see, there is no sales and marketing whatsoever in this show. This show is completely about helping other people, and that's why I started it. So I think that, those brands that are thinking about live streaming, that are thinking about doing this, take the leap, because, our engagement, this year is 10 times greater on this show than anything else we're doing. And that was an eye-opener to me. We've been watching the metrics. We've been watching the people that tune in and week out. And as you can see, we have a global audience that we're able to get on this broadcast at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday afternoon. For me, it has been a huge eye-opener in what is possible in a new virtual world. We're going to have to... So I think, that's one of them. Getting better at having conversations, getting better at platforms like LinkedIn. Getting better at public speaking and presenting is going to be another key marketing strategy for 2021. So if this intimidates you, presenting in a digital environment, that's something we're going to have to level up in, is to be good at being in front of people in a digital environment, talking to a camera. And I think the engagement that we've gotten this year has taught me the value that's why we keep going. That's why we keep doing this show week in and week out. So that will wrap our show. So give us a like, give me a share, heart, whatever you're into down at the bottom of the screen. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube or Facebook, please give us a shout out. If there's something in particular in today's broadcast that stuck out to you, let me know. But I'm happy that you were able to hang out. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Gloria. But let me know that you enjoyed this show. Smash those buttons at the bottom of the screen. And let me know what your number one takeaway is from the show. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know that as well. Please put in the comments. Be sure to tag me in the comments too, because I don't always see them. Like LinkedIn, if you don't tag me, it may take me a little while to actually see the comment, but I do monitor the comments weeks after each live broadcast that we do. So thank you for hanging out with me this week. Hopefully that there was something in this show that spoke to you, that resonated with you, that will help you right now, that will help you in your personal life, in your business life, in your spiritual life going forward. And that's really what I want this show to do week in and week out, is challenge everything that we've all been told up to now and to think differently. And to do, like I said, that's the title of this show, is to do what is necessary for you. So thank you so much for hanging out. Lots of comments coming in. So thank you so much. I'm honored that those of you who continue to watch the show week in and week out, and again, those of you who can't watch this live and it might be watching on the replay, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been a labor of love for me this year, to be able to get on this show and to be able to help people week in and week out. This has been my therapy as well every week. I'm grateful to meet people who watch the show, who comment, who contact me after the fact. This show has helped me in a number of ways as an entrepreneur and as a person as well this year. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. So that will wrap the show. So thank you again so much again for being here. And as my Tim McGraw, those of you who are into country music, as he says, always stay humble and kind, and always, always, always do what is necessary. Do what is necessary for you to succeed in life. I'll see you on next week's broadcast. Take care.